Hello guys, and welcome back to the stinkiest channel on YouTube, and today I have a treat for all of you. We are going to take a look at the Crimson Lord Saber by Denis, please forgive me for butchering your name, Lukyanov. He's Russian, as you can tell. This is his take on Darth Maul's final saber before he died, when Obi-Wan stabbed him for like the fourth or fifth time. Darth Maul gets stabbed a lot. This was made entirely by Denis, and I will point out that this is an empty hilt, so there are no electronics inside. I cannot turn it on. But we'll go ahead and jump straight into the measurements and get you some close-up shots of this saber. So jumping straight into showing off the saber, we're going to start with measurements. So if I take the tape measure, we're going to measure from end of the saber to the other end of the saber. And that is about 17.5 inches long, and if we go from the tip of the broken section down to the end of the saber, that is 21 inches. Now, showcasing the actual saber itself, you'll notice there are two hidden screws here. If you unscrew the screws that are inside of there, you can actually remove this part and open up the chassis, which will give you access to these buttons, and there are buttons on the other side. And I would like to point out, this is very good future-proofing on these buttons because this saber is a double saber. So you could technically install two blades with two different speakers in here, and they could be using two completely different sets of buttons for each of them, which is very good future-proofing on Denis's part. Now, I'm going to unscrew, I'm not going to take out the secret screws and unscrew this part here, but I will unscrew the other bits of it to show the components of the saber. If we come over here to the back, and it just unscrews with your hand, you don't need any sort of tools. And you can see it's empty all the way through. And what's cool here is that this is actually a blade plug, which is great, so that when you have something installed, you don't look in and burn your eyes out. That's why blade plugs are cool. Now if we take this part out as well, you can actually remove this. This little band is just, and in Denis's words, it is just there for aesthetics. It is just there to look cool. You can actually spin it around, which is kind of fun. I keep it on there just because it matches the red on the buttons, but you don't have to. Blade plug goes right back in there. And this is designed for a chassis, this tube, of course, that Denis is designing, and I will eventually purchase from him so that we can install this saber with some nice sounds. And if we come around here, now to give you guys an idea of how this saber actually works, these three prongs that jut out of the saber did not come this way. This came beautifully packaged, and these parts needed to be installed on there with a set of screws that put these in here. Now, there is three sets of screws that put this actual band of metal here. I'll show this off here. You just screw this part out, and there is, you were supposed to slide this band off after taking out three screws. You'll notice there's only one screw in there, and that is because the other two are in this bag along with the blade plug that came for the top. I will say, if I have one complaint about this saber, it's an interesting complaint to say the least, is that these two screws that went into the other two holes, they don't fit. The treads or threads inside, they don't actually hold the screws. But it's funny because Denis designed this in such a way, I could just pull this out with my fingernail. If I had working fingernails, you could just pull this out here. There's no way for me to screw that in, and I'm not sure if that's user error on my part because I was able to get the other one in. But the saber is so well crafted that one singular screw is able to hold this in without it moving even a little bit. So I will say that is impressive. And if we just go ahead and slot that back in, we can see the blade plug slots perfectly in there and leaves enough room for you to actually pull it out with your fingers. So yeah, that's the specs of the Saber, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what this looks like with an actual blade inside of it. Okay guys, so like I said, I'm going to show what the Saber looks like with a blade in it, and as I mentioned before, there's no electronics in it. You can even see it's just hollow through the middle. So we're not going to be able to turn it on or have any sounds, so we're just going to use an unstable pearl ripper blade, I believe this is. It's the only one I've got on hand. And we'll just pop this in. And it is painted, so it looks a bit like a Beyblade, which is cool. And as you can see, this is what the blade looks like in the Saber. Looks pretty rad, if you ask me. I think it looks nice. It feels pretty good to handle. This is a heavy duty blade, so it's very thick and very durable, and therefore it is very heavy. But it actually feels pretty good to handle in your hands. And just for showing off what the Saber can do, I popped out the blade plug that's in the end, and we'll put it in this way. If you could find a way to double install this, you can have a double blade. And it feels absolutely awful to hold this way, just straight up. Because this part hits your wrist. It is 100% not designed to be held this way. It's definitely supposed to be this way, leading, and you can, I guess, slash opponents behind you. But yeah, this is what it looks like with the blade in. So now that we've taken some time to look over the specs of the Saber and really show it off, I'd like to talk a little bit about the sabersmith behind it, Denis Lukyanov. I'm trying my best, Denis, I promise. Denis is a very kind man, and I don't know if he has a store, but I know he posts on forums and you can order from him. He has a Google form, and when you fill out that form, you just tell him what you want, if you want any add-ons to the Saber, etc., and he'll reach out to you through email. And through communicating with Denis, I can tell you guys that he is very professional. He's flawless. He's a wonderful man. And I would recommend purchasing from him just because of how kind he is. And he genuinely, you can tell by the quality of the work, he genuinely cares about the stuff that he's doing. And I would like to say, this Saber is particularly special to me because people who watch my videos will tell you they call me 6 Saber Tony because I bought 6 lightsabers over the span of a few months like a normal adult. But this Saber is particularly special because out of those 6 sabers, it is the first one to have arrived here. And beyond that, it is the final Saber that Denis made from this line, because he's not a sort of store that always restocks sabers. He makes them in limited lines, or limited runs, excuse me. And this was the final one. And in the email correspondences I had with him, he says, yeah, one guy reserved this one and was going to pay for it, and then he just didn't feel like paying for it, so it's yours now, which is just horrible. Don't do that. Be nice to the artists who are working on these fine pieces of art that you're purchasing. If you would like to get this Saber, like I mentioned, it's from a run that is now done. This is the last one, and you can't have it because it's mine. But you might be able to find it on eBay. People might resell this. I paid $350 for this new, so you're probably going to be paying somewhere around $500. That's what I would probably put this on eBay if you really want one yourself. But in case you want some of Denis's other work, he did a Luke Saber that looks beautiful, even though I think thin neck sabers are ugly. He did a Beskar steel, which for those of you who watch The Mandalorian is a sort of currency steel that they use to make the armor for the Mandalorians. He did a reproduction of those, and of course he did this beautiful Saber here, and I will leave a link in the description to his forum profile where you can see his other listings. Please go support Denis. He's very lovely and genuinely deserves your money. And I hope you guys enjoyed this showcase. I will be doing many more. Hopefully I can get better. And I hope you guys had a great time. Have a great rest of your night.